Yeah. Okay. Well, this is the last session. It's a bit of a mopping up session because there's a couple of topics which people asked um, to focus on, which we didn't really go into deeply enough during the course. So start off mopping up these couple of topics, and then a recap of what we've done in this course, what we've learned, what we've talked about, what we've discussed, what we've tried out, followed by my own reflections, and I'm going to give feedback to myself and feedback to you, and then throw it open to feedback from you in breakout rooms. So that's the program for this session. So the two topics which people asked to focus on, which we didn't really talk about enough, is firstly weaker writers, those who don't write, don't want to write, can't write, and very, very difficult to teach them, to get them to write, and the question of handwriting. So we'll start with weaker writers. Um, but after where we've talked about writers and writing, then the other topics I'm going to talk about, as I just said, recap, reflections, feedback, and feedback. So weaker writers then. Um, and just today, I got a WhatsApp from Limol saying, what do I do when I'm teaching kids getting into seventh grade who don't even know the alphabet? I don't know, how can I cope with that sort of situation when I'm trying to progress towards a higher level of writing? Um, so really, really difficult. It's the kids who are possibly going for 3 or 4 point bug route, but even that isn't sure. But first of all, they're very weak readers. Some of them don't even read very well. Some of them, as Limon said, don't even know the alphabet. Um, they have a very limited vocabulary. They make many errors in grammar, spelling, punctuation. They may have untidy or illegible handwriting and have difficulty in writing comprehensible sentences or even phrases or even words, and crucially are unwilling to try. They don't want to, and it's a question of also not only of ability but also of motivation. And finally, may also be troublemakers in class, as we all know. Um, Most of the reasons it's out of our power to do anything about. Sorry to sound defeatist, but this is life, you know. The reasons why they've got to this situation, first of all, their past learning history, for some reason that they've haven't managed to learn. Um, the home situation, what's going on at home, we don't know what's going on at home. Um, there may be a learning disability of one kind or another, which we may or may not be aware of, social and emotional issues. So there's a limit what we can do. All these things are out of our control. There's not much we can do about them. And so what I'm going to say here is that basically I don't know. I can't really help very much here. I think it's a situation which does not have a solution, but there are things which can help. And the only thing I can do in this course is say, well, look, this and this and this might help. Um, I'm not going to um, claim to be solving any problems. So things that can help then. Um, and while I'm talking, well, you're already doing it. I say, please write in the chat box, but you do it anyway because you've got used to doing it in this throughout the course. Yes. Um, Last point was the most crucial, the one about troublemakers. Is that what you meant? Um, and a vicious circle. Yes, they fail, and so they feel bad, so they fail some more, and it goes on and on. Yes. Right, Sarah. The past can't be changed. We have to deal with the present. So what can we do? Um, and can you write ideas you have what can help, or just sympathetic messages? Yes, great. Thank you very much for, yes, ask them to write 4 words. Start there. Yes, a very, very simple, easy, accessible things to do, which give them the feeling, yes, I can do this. I'm, why is my camera off? Just looking to see. Hold on, it was on before. Um, yeah, now I can see myself. Okay. Um, So there are two situations where we cope with these kids. Either they're in a group of their own, a small group with hakbatsa, or, and this is where the real problems come up, a mixed group where most of the other kids are more advanced. Um, and we have to cope with challenging the ones who can go further at the same time as we are taking care of those who, for whatever reason, cannot write or are very, very weak. Um, yes, thank you very much, Moshe, for that. Uh, yeah, it's a question of time, isn't it? And we talked about this earlier in the course, the question of time, particularly when we're talking about correction, but all sorts of things. It's how much time do we devote to what? So the student needs, the first thing they need is the individual attention and support. And that's what Moshe is also writing about here in his contribution to the chat box, finding time to sit with them and give them the attention and support that they need through individual tutoring, if you have time out of class to give them that, or individual or small group tutoring within the main class, either by you, the main teacher, or by a teaching assistant. Um, yeah, um, unwilling or unable, yes, maybe one or the other or both. And we talked about the vicious circle. One very much leads to the other very often. Okay. Um, yes, simple sentences. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. So the individual attention, they really, really need this, that I'm paying attention, that I care. Or if I am lucky enough to have a teaching assistant in the class to help. The second need is to get success-oriented tasks. And earlier in the chat, I talked about writing 4 words or writing a very easy task which they can do, which they look at it and they say, yes, I can do this, and go ahead and do it, because a lot of the tasks in the textbooks are simply discouraging for them because it's obvious that they won't be able to succeed in doing them. Yeah, giving the bank of words, as Samia said. Um, would you recommend a stronger pupil work with them? I don't know. What do other people think about that? Students helping other students to um, progress up to a certain point. I think it helps, but you can't do it too much because then you are virtually neglecting the stronger pupil and not giving them challenge to do things themselves. So it's a question of balance, proportion, how much time you can give to that. Um, So one thing we can do, one thing which AI has done for us, it's enabled at the click of a mouse to simplify a text. So if we have a reading text, which the class is doing, we can very, very easily make a simplified version of it, which used to take hours to do, and today is in a moment you can get AI to do it for you for the less able students. Or use of tasks that require only words or phrases, and that's you said before, 4 words, okay, or phrases rather than complete sentences. Um, how do these help with handwriting? Yes, I'll talk about handwriting in a moment. Yes, question of unreadable handwriting. Um, use of copying-based tasks. I don't know if you've used these. What I call selective copying. In other words, say you write 2 sentences on the board and you say, write down only that sentence which is right, which is true. Or you have 2 or 3 sentences or words or phrases under a picture, copy only those which are relevant to the picture. Or copy and change, copy down the sentence but change 1 word and make it different. So very, very simple, but they're copying, so they have the scaffolding, as it were, of the text in front of them, which says copying, but they are writing meaningfully because it's selective copying. They can't just copy mindlessly. They have to know what they're writing and write a selected sentence or a changed sentence or an added sentence or a shortened sentence, anything you like, but selective, meaningful copying. So that's one tip which can help. Use of short, fun writing tasks, and we talked about these when we were talking about genres earlier on. Um, just very quick brainstorms, all the foods you can think of, or all the ways you can think of ending this sentence, or just fun things to do quickly and briefly. And the use of core plus optional structure, which I'm going to come back to later when I'm talking about teaching strategies. The idea that you give a task and you say everybody has to do this, the easiest bit, the first bit, the core bit, and if you have time, if you can, do the second bit. So that's a useful strategy, and the time limit strategy is also a useful one. So rather than saying do this exercise, you say do as much of this exercise as you can in 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you're giving. Where some of them, okay, we'll only do 2 sentences, that's fine, and others will do the whole exercise and maybe go on to the next one. But the very fact that you say not do this exercise, expecting them all to be sort of lockstep and do the same thing at the same time, you're allowing a flexibility of time, and the weaker students can do less and feel they're okay. They've done what you've asked them to do. Um, More
Amy,
ideas?
Dana's
Yes.
just posted the attendance, the beginning attendance form.
Okay.
People were asking, so it's here now.
Okay. Yeah. Amy's comment about the question about stronger students helping weaker students. Yes, it's a delicate one and needs more time than I have to discuss here in this session. Yes, Rita, we've just said that there is an attendance form you do need to fill in. Dreadfully difficult if you have 5 such students in a class of 30, says Amy, and better suited for Paltany lessons. Yes, maybe. Yeah, we'll leave phonics aside for the moment. Give tasks at different levels. Many strong pupils still opt to do the minimum, yes, but you know your students and you can tell them explicitly, I expect you to do this, this, and this. I don't expect you to do it. Everyone does the minimum one, but you can turn to the students who you know are able to do more and tell them you expect them to do the optional one as well. So more ideas. If you have any more ideas, please carry on. I'm going to move on to the next topic, but please keep writing if you have more ideas about how to help the weaker writers in your class. Um, Handwriting. What happened about handwriting? I've lost the slide on handwriting. Don't know why. Okay. In that case, I'll have to improvise here. Handwriting. Handwriting is the research on handwriting indicates that it is vitally important. There's a bit of interesting research I read quite recently on an experiment in the States at the height of the enthusiasm for laptops and tablets, and they actually taught kids to type instead of teaching them handwriting, to learn directly to learn to type into the onto the screen. And the result was absolutely disastrous for children's learning to read and write later, and they stopped it fairly quickly. The actual action of forming letters to write is activates the brain and is very good for learning in general, and has been lots of research on the importance of handwriting. Myself, the most important thing, of course, is that it's legible. That's the crucial point. But then the question arises, print or cursive? I mean, in the States these days, there's a lot of publicity recently on the internet about how they're going back to cursive and teaching kids to write joined up. Personally, I teach them print, which I'm sure you important do. David says cursive is important, is it? as I say, there's a swing, at least in the States, back towards cursive. Um, but it's less legible, less easily read than is print, separate. What I mean by print in this case is letters written separately. And what I used to do in my classes is teach them all print, but making very sure that they were drawing the letters in the correct direction. Because in Hebrew and Arabic, the rounded letters are written clockwise. If you think about a written shin or samach, you write it clockwise. In English, you write anti-clockwise. Think how you write a C or an E, okay? And they have to learn to do this because they won't do it intuitively. They'll keep writing as they do in their mother tongue. And they have to learn to write in the right direction so that should they wish to join up letters later, they will be able to do so. If they're writing the wrong way around, then they won't be able to. And apart from insisting that they write letters in the right direction, in sixth grade, I would um, teach my students cursive, teach them to join up for fun, really, because it's really it's aesthetically pleasing, and they wanted to know about it. It looks grown up, and it looks sophisticated, and it looks nice. And then I said, okay, this is how you do it. We'll practice it a bit, draw it, colors, lines and all sorts of things and enjoy writing. And then, okay, now you decide if you want to carry on writing joined up or you want to go back to writing prints. Up to you, you decide. But you have the choice. This is the point of giving them the choice between print and cursive. Yes, Robin, you're quite right. The problem with cursive is, come back to this point about legibility. The point is it legible or is it not? If it is not legible, then let's keep to print and not go into joined up cursive. Okay, so I lost my screen on handwriting, but I hope I've remembered everything I wanted to say. Lisa says, is cursive acceptable for the Bugroot essay and paragraph? I don't know the answer to that. Gail, is it? Or those of you
I
have
didn't see that. I just wanted to remind you that Tsiona and Barry are here. If you remember, you invited them.
yes, so they can answer this actually. Okay, Barry, what's the answer? Is cursive acceptable for Bugroot essay and paragraph?
Sure, it is, but if it's difficult to read, then if the examiner can't read it, then they can't mark it properly.
Right.
So but I mean, if the student has good cursive writing and it's legible, then absolutely, why not?
Yeah. Right. So that's your answer, Sarah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to now go into um, the main body of this session, which is a recap of the main topics, my own reflections, my own feedback to myself, to you, and your feedback to me. I want to remind you that there is actually, as I speak, being finalized a guidebook on the teaching of writing, which will be out, Barry assures me, soon, right, Barry? Which Barry and I were working on together with a team.
Soon. Yeah.
Says she with an optimistic lilt to her voice, yes. Um, and basically, it includes a lot of what there's been in this course, but it will be published. It'll be on the portal, and you need to check the inspector's bulletins to see when it's coming out. It's going to look like this, more or less. This is how Barry designed it, right, Barry? And hopefully that
Wait, that's
date
the
is
cover.
accurate,
Yeah.
but we're not holding our breath.
Did I put that date on it? Yeah, maybe I did. I guess I did, but it's close enough. We have to have it ready soon. So,
Yeah.
but
But anyway, you
but
should. The main point is that you should know about it, that it
right,
exists and that is up and coming.
right, and also that we haven't made a final decision yet, but it's possible that this will be the first edition and that it will be updated again in coming months. We have to make
Yeah,
a final decision on that.
yeah. Okay. Ah, here's my handwriting. I don't know how it moved to here. Okay, so just more or less what I said before. Um, just to recap, I don't know how this slide got out of place. Apologies. Okay. Recap of course content then. I'm not going to do it session by session. I'm going to do it um, heading by heading. And I'm going to start off with the underlying principles, which I really started, if you go right back to the first session, definition of good teaching is that which leads to good learning. In other words, if we're teaching writing, what we want is to our students to be able to write well, um, and that is the goal. And this is something which we emphasized right through the course. And another underlying principle is the importance of writing. Yeah, rather than notebook, the guidebook will be available on the portal. Just keep aware of what's going on there. Um, the importance of writing today, the result of digital communication tools means that a lot of communication these days is actually done through writing, not through speaking. A lot of people today text rather than phoning, for example, which is writing rather than speaking. And there's lots of other examples, all the social media, blogs, and all sorts of um, written media, which mean that people today need to know how to write, need to know how to communicate in writing, where before they were communicating more in speech. Another thing which we did in this course or I taught in this course, was information, background information, not how to teach, but underlying information that is interesting and relevant that professionals we need to know about. So, background information on topics to do with writing. For example, you remember from the first session, the development of the alphabet we talked about? Um, the writing component of the CFI talked about the fact that writing is used not only for production, but also for interaction, for mediation. Do you remember Jacobson's functions of language? Also, I think this is either the first or the second session, functions of language as being not just to communicate information, but also to persuade, to get people to do things, the conative function, to express myself, get something off my chest, which is the expressive function, the aesthetic function, using language to play, to give aesthetic pleasure, to be funny, and a couple of others which are less important. But the different functions of language are also expressed in different functions of writing, which we went on to later. And another background information, I gave you a small lecture on changes in modern international English, the way the vocabulary and the grammar are changing in modern written international English, with a few examples there. And finally, I gave you in the last session before this one, a sort of mini lecture on issues relating to the use of AI, not all of them directly relevant to writing specifically, but background knowledge that I think we need to have if we are going to use AI in our teaching. The next heading I'm using is awareness raising, things that were not new information to you, but which perhaps you are less aware of, or were making us had previous assumptions, which in this course I was questioning or suggesting alternatives. So I call this awareness raising. For example, the distinction between speech and writing, the fact, for example, that writing is fleeting and cannot be edited, and speech is fleeting and cannot be edited, and writing is permanent and can be edited. And we looked at all sorts of other aspects of speech and writing, the kind of discourse there are, and looked also at texting, which has characteristics of both in various ways. If you remember that table which we looked at. We raised awareness of formal and informal writing. including texting. If you remember, one of the things I asked you to do, I think either in the first or second session, was write down all the times you remember writing in your own daily life. When do you write and for what purposes and what kind of writing is it? And what we found was that something like 90% of the writing which we do is actually informal, and only a very small percentage is formal essay writing or letter writing or formal emails and stuff. And this made a difference to our thinking about the kind of writing that we should be asking students to produce. We raised awareness of the wide variety of genres that there are of writing, from writing lists and brainstorms and memos and reminders to more formal stories, narratives, essays, reports, and so on. And we also talked about raised awareness of the fact that the Bagrut essay is the primary goal of teaching in junior high school and high school, not only in the textbooks, but also in classrooms, and you also in the essays which I've written. A lot of you raised this as an assumption which they were not so aware of and now are much more aware of, and also aware of the options to do it another way, to include other things besides the Bagrut essay as primary goal of teaching writing in junior high and high, the consequent neglect of other types of writing in a lot of the textbooks. Another thing which we raised awareness of was the usefulness of L1. Some of you had already thought of it, others less, but the use of L1 to improve their writing by looking at the differences, the contrastive analysis, the difference between English on the one hand and Hebrew or Arabic on the other, explaining why they're making particular errors, and the use of translation. I'm not talking about professional translation of entire texts, but translation of phrases and sentences. And several of you in your final essays have mentioned that you tried this out in class, and students responded really well. Firstly, they enjoyed it, and secondly, they really felt they learned from it, and you felt that they understood the meanings of vocabulary and some grammatical structures as a result of translating and contrasting with mother tongue. The importance of coherent, not cohesive writing. There's a sort of assumption in some of the textbooks that if you teach connectors like because and however and but and so on, you are therefore teaching coherence, and you aren't. You're just teaching cohesion, which is, and we made the distinction between cohesion, which is sort of gluing two sentences together with a connector, and coherence, which is thinking in terms of reasons, examples, generalizations. And we talked about various exercises or activities which can get students to think in terms of logical thinking, coherent logical thinking, in which case the connectors will help to join, but the main point is the actual real connection of thought between one sentence and another, and one paragraph and another. And another awareness raising of the contributions and limitations of digital tools in teaching writing. If you remember the picture of Mount Everest and the idea that sometimes there is a temptation to use the digital tool just because they are there and not because they help learning. And we emphasize the importance of using digital tools if and when they contribute to helping students write well, and also the importance of combining low tech with high tech for optimal results. We're getting more and more practical as we go on. Practical principles I tried to teach in this course. The principle of getting them interested, wanting and maintaining interest in writing, motivation. We talked about various components that contribute to interest, like challenge, and personalization and success oriented, in the sense that I can do this, and the idea of getting feedback. Someone's going to read this. I'm going to be get feedback from the teacher or from my friend. The principle of addressing different levels in the class, which I've already talked about at the beginning of this session. The principle of language play, which is actually the title of my talk at ETI, which I hope some of you will come to, or I hope a lot of you will come to. The use of language play. Language play at ETI, I'll be talking about language play, not just for writing, obviously, but for all sorts of other things as well, for speaking, for grammar, for vocabulary, and so on. But language play for writing is writing things because they are fun, because they are entertaining, because they are pleasing. And you remember we talked about writing poetry, for example. The principle of maximizing feedback, and I've put in parentheses within known constraints, because the problem with giving feedback, and we came back to this again and again, is that yes, students need the feedback and they want the feedback, and they say explicitly that they want to be corrected. But if we have large classes, and a lot of them, we just don't have time to give detailed feedback on every single piece of writing that we get. And so the principle is, yes, do as much as I can, but I have a limit. So within the limits that I have, to maximize the feedback, I give at least to read and give a little check or smiley to show that I've read. And if I can give more correction and suggestions, then I will. Proactive and reactive grammar teaching, another principle of grammar teaching. Remember the difference between focus on form and focus on forms. Focus on forms being the traditional proactive grammar lesson, right? I'm going to explain the grammar and then practice it and get you to use it. And reactive, or focus on form without the S at the end, is reactive is, I'm not going to do a grammar lesson, but if I come across something in a text or as a result of a student error or something which comes up in a conversation, then I will pick it up and take some time out in the lesson to relate to it, re-explain it, make sure the students understand it and can produce it, and perhaps even do a little exercise. The practical principle of vocabulary expansion, that we do need to, for their writing, actually expand vocabulary, because written discourse uses a much wider vocabulary than does spoken, and they do need to know a lot of words and expressions. Useful teaching strategies and routines we did during this course in various sessions. Use of, for example, fun short writing activities, I already mentioned. The core plus optional strategy, also I've mentioned, just recap here. Time limit instead of task limit. The strategy of pass it on, remember, where each student gets a sheet of paper, writes something at the top, the beginning of a story, passes it on to a partner. The partner writes the next line in the story or the next line in the poem and passes it on, and so on. And everyone contributes, and you come out at the end with a sort of collaborative text. The strategy or routine of the writing portfolio, we discussed this also, of gathering the students' compositions, whether they are the short things they've just written in class or whether they are longer essays, and perhaps various versions of the same essay. Checklists and rubrics, and something which I forgot to add here, and I'm going to add it orally, I should have written it here in the list, is the principle, the teaching strategy of getting students to write and rewrite. To write a draft and then rewrite and rewrite until they produce a final one. I'll correct this before I upload it. And finally, the idea that you don't have to grade by using a number. And you suggested some of these are your suggestions. Some of them are mine, some of them are yours. Using checks or emojis, stickers, I forget who it was. One of you said they have the punch with little star punch, which they go around and use, put a little star hole in the student's paper. And finally, activities. Every session in this course ended with a writing activity, which some of you did, some of you didn't. At least I know that at least some of you did some of them, so it was worth doing, and it was quite fun. Just to recap, remind you, remember the first one was emojis into text, giving a set of emojis or symbols, and they had to write what they were actually saying in writing. Poems, the clerihue, remember, writing a clerihue. The recall and share procedure, where you displayed text on the board, whether it's a set of words, set of phrases, whatever, take it off the board. They have to try and remember as much as they can, then share with a partner, see if they can help each other remember more, and finally see the original text again on the board. Activities based on pictures, what's going on, what will happen, what has happened, and so on. Self-assessment was another one, write what I feel I've learned this year, what I need to learn, what I'm good at, what I'm bad at, what helps me learn, what doesn't help me learn. A sort of questionnaire, but a self-reflective assessment piece of writing. And then towards the end, there was this activity, remember, phrasal verbs, find a one-word verb which matches a phrasal verb and look at the difference it makes to the register, to the formality level, where phrasal verbs are informal and tend to be associated with informal writing or speech, and one-word verbs tend to be more formal and enlarge their vocabularies. That was another one. Towards the end, we had an activity inventing as idioms of their own. And the final one was in the session on digital tools, the idea of using Mentimeter to elicit responses on the board. Okay, reflections. Get to share with you my own reflections. Planning this course, my goal. Okay, I'll let you read that. That's obvious what my goal was, and the coverage as well, and the linking of theory and practice. In other words, when I'm giving a practical activity, to make sure that I also talk about the underlying theory, and if I give a theory, then how it's expressed in practice. What I attempted to do, and you'll give me feedback on whether this worked or not, using a variety of teaching modes, top-down lectures interwoven with responses by you in the chat, activation, getting you to try out things during the session or respond on paper, your own input in sessions, whether through writing or through speech, breakout rooms, and the individual reflection, which you did mainly in the short assignments and indeed the longer final assignment. And hopefully, this didn't actually come up in the course itself, but hopefully I hope that what was going on was that you were implementing some of the ideas in your classrooms. Feedback to myself. Okay, I'm going to give a couple of screens of feedback to myself. What I'm pleased with myself about and what I'm not so pleased about. So I think I prepared well and I was organized, and that I did cover the main issues. I learned a lot from you, which is another thing which I'm really pleased about. And I think we learned from each other, but I've come out of this course richer than I came in, with more knowledge. Interesting, I'm not sure. You'll have to tell me if it was interesting or not, but I think it was. And I had a routine structure to the sessions, right? Beginning with the more theoretical stuff and ending up with an assignment and the practical idea. I think this was a good idea, but again, you'll give me the feedback on that. Mikol talmidai iskalti. Minuses, what I criticize myself about is that I feel that I'm out of touch with present day classrooms and materials, and you helped me catch up on this. But still, the fact that I haven't taught for 20 years shows, I think, and there's a lot of things about the present day materials which I didn't know. My slides are a bit sort of lifeless. I don't have that many pictures or colors, and I need to do something about that, perhaps. The breakout rooms were insufficiently interactive. I'm not quite sure whether this is my fault or your fault, but we can talk about this. Um, um, Another criticism of myself is that I made insufficient use of the Moodle forum, which could have been a really nice tool for interaction, and I don't think I used it enough. And the final one, which is a minus but not really my fault, is that because there were so many people in this course, I couldn't interact with everyone, and I really wanted to, and was constantly frustrated at the feeling that I wasn't really um, interacting enough. Feedback to you guys. What do I want to say to you before I let you say things to me? Um, I had the feeling of interaction, understanding, even in spite of the fact of the enormous numbers in this course, there was a feeling of interaction. Um, and what do you mean, breakout rooms were insufficiently interactive? I'll come to that in a moment, Amy. Um, a feeling of understanding, a feeling that we're on the same page, you and me. Even when we may not agree, we know what we're talking about. We understand each other. We're coming from the same background. I was very impressed by your readiness to consider new, sometimes unconventional ideas, things which you hadn't thought about, or things which you at the beginning didn't agree with and then later did agree with, or maybe even at the end didn't agree with, but at least you were considering them and were willing to look at them and think about them in depth. And finally, a sense of significant learning, a sense that this course was resulting in learning, which I got from both with the short and the long assignments. Breakout rooms, in answer to, this is the only negative thing in this list. There's still some individuals not participating, which is a pity, which led to over-reliance on a minority. And I hope that today, guys, everybody will open up their screens, open up their microphones, and contribute to the feedback. Okay, and before we leave, I'll go on to the feedback to you. My thanks and loud applause to Gail, first of all, for all this support all the way. She wrote the program together with me, well, helped me to set it up and running, and of course the Moodle coordination with the Ministry of Education, the PISGA, constant professional advice. Gail, I hope you're blushing, and I hope, and you should be. And it was really, really marvelous. I could not in any way, shape, or form have done this course without Gail. And Michelle, also for support, constructive criticism, and advice, and for assessing the short assignments and communication with participants. And a lot of you have talked to her. And all voluntary, not getting paid at all for it, and absolutely marvelous. And Dana, thank you for all your support, also support all the way, and particularly the help of technical assistance during the Zoom sessions. Okay, Gail, over to you.
Okay,
Yeah,
wow. So first of all, Michelle requested that you look in your WhatsApp because she sent her feedback there.
okay, I'll have a look.
So I first want to give some feedback to the course participants who, wow, at the end of the school year, after a war, you came for 10 consecutive weeks and most of you participated and were here and you did it. And I think that's totally amazing. And the amount of sharing and building of community, that's Penny, but it's also you guys. It was just a pleasure to be participating with you all. And maybe there'll be some kind of continuation, or we'll meet in other courses, but
It's a pity to finish, isn't it?
it was an amazing experience. And to Penny, who for some reason I hadn't worked with for many, many years. I don't know how it happened, but we used to
We
work.
remembered each other.
I just want to say that it doesn't matter. You always renew and refresh things, even if I knew them. You remind me how important they are. And mostly as a model teacher, knowing how to give knowledge and teach and spend not much time lecturing, and then getting us to do all sorts of different activities of contributing together, building knowledge together, listening to what we have to say with respect and acceptance, and making everybody feel part of this community, if I could even call it that. And the other amazing thing that I wanted to do about Penny is she was open, flexible, and ready to learn new technical tools. She wanted to learn how to use the ministry Moodle, which she wasn't familiar with. I didn't have to show her anything more than once. And after that, it was okay, I can manage to do this, no problem. The same thing with any other idea, if it was Padlet, if it was Google Forms, whatever I showed her, whatever I recommended, she latched on, she understood the added value of the technology and why it was worth using it. And that was also well done. I mean, usually I have to explain things more than once, and Penny was just so quick and amazing and a pleasure to work with. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Gail. Applause, applause. I just want to read out what Michelle sent. My feedback to our participants. I truly enjoyed getting to know you all through your tasks. It was frustrating for me that there really wasn't enough time due to the size of the course to comment on your work, but I really did read everything. Thank you for your patience. It was a great experience for me to learn how Penny ran the course, and I enjoyed the collaboration with Gail and Dana. But most of all, it was an honor working with all of you, and I hope we'll have the chance to meet face to face in the future. Wishing you all success and fulfillment in your very vital work in English language education. And I will end with what I say to all my students at the end of a course, teachers or school kids. You have my number. If you think I can help you with anything, please be in touch. If I can help, I will. So that's from Michelle, very typical. Dana, do you want to add something?
Just to really, I just want to say how much we appreciate your diligence, the teachers, of course, the teachers' diligence and hard work. We need more of you.
Yeah. I think people worked really hard on this course. It's not just us, so it's good feeling. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Gail, would you like to go on to breakout rooms? In the breakout rooms, we've done this once before using slides. Each breakout room will will go to the slide, which is the number of their breakout room, and write in the names of the group members, and then together fill in the answers to these 3 questions. Okay, that these will be up on the slide, but this is just a sort of preview on the screen now. You won't be able to see the screen when you're actually doing the activity, but it will be on your slide. So choose the slide, which is the number of your room, fill in the members, and write answers. And please, everybody, participate. Okay. Gail, over to you.
I'm going to open the breakout rooms now, but the link to the Google Doc, to the slides, is in the chat. I'll post it directly to the breakout rooms in a minute or two. Choose one representative in your breakout room to be the one to share the screen and do the writing. And how long are you going to give this, Penny?
We said 15 minutes.
Okay, great.
So plenty of time.
Okay.
Find them.
Okay. Hey, Leah.
Once everyone is back, just tell me when you're ready for me.
With
In the meantime, I'm still
Gail.
looking at what they wrote.
Well, why don't we kick off with Barry then? Gail, tell her when everybody's back.
Everybody's back.
Everybody's back? Okay. So, first of all, I didn't have an opportunity to greet all of you, so I'd like to say good evening. It's 8:15, so it's definitely evening. For those of you who don't yet know me, I think most of you do, but for those of you who don't yet know me, I am the Chief Inspector for English in junior high and high school. And prior to this position, I was for 9 years the English inspector in the Southern District in Mahfouz Darom. And I was a national counselor many years ago, so some of you might know me from back then. So nice to see all of you here. I'm so glad to see so many people taking a course at the end of June with Penny, who is amazing, and I understand why you all signed up for this course. You saw who was giving it, and that was enough motivation. And I'd like to, because I am the chief inspector for junior high and high school, I would like to remark on one of the things that I saw on a few of the slides, not on all of them, but on a few. I saw that some of you in your breakout rooms related to what you call Bagrut writing. So although I am chief inspector for high school, and I'm in charge of Bagrut and Bagrut writing, that really, first of all, I want to say there is no such animal as Bagrut writing. There's just writing. Students do get assessed on writing on the Bagrut. And the different genres for the Bagrut are limited. Number of different genres for the Bagrut are limited, but we're not teaching students to write for Bagrut. And I even saw somebody wrote, and I don't know who it was, and it doesn't matter, but somebody wrote something about students are interested in passing exams and not doing writing for fun. But we are interested in, well, you tell me, why are we teaching students English? Can someone just comment and say why we're teaching students English, not just writing, English in general?
We're teaching them English in order for them to be able to function professionally with confidence and to be able to engage with others on an international level, both academically and from a personal standpoint. We want them to be able to use and live the language of it so they can represent and be part of the international world, I think.
Robin, that was a beautiful answer. Thank you very much. I loved that answer. And so I think that you certainly saw where I was going with my remarks. The Bagrut exam is just a point along the way. It is the end of their high school studies, but I don't want students to even stop learning English at the end of 12th grade. We want them, I'm a native English speaker, and I've been speaking English for, I don't want to tell you how old I am, but I'm old. I've been speaking English for my whole life, and I still learn new things in English. I read, I learn new words, or I come across words that I haven't maybe seen in a long time and I need a refresher. I improve my writing all the time. I write and I rewrite, and I have someone read it and then I rewrite again. And the same for my Hebrew, by the way. And my Hebrew is excellent, and yet I am constantly improving my Hebrew. Language is something that we continue to learn and to refine throughout life. And that's what we want students to do also in English. So the Bagrut exam is a station along the way, but that's not where you're aiming for. If you're teaching your students just to pass the Bagrut exam or to do well on the Bagrut exam, you're really shortchanging them, because they need English for the rest of their lives, and they need writing in English. We all write everyone sends text messages. Don't tell, although, well, maybe some kids now record them, but we all write. We all write, and they're going to have to write in English, and they're going to have to write more than just an opinion essay or a formal letter, right? They're going to have to do different kinds of writing. And so I wouldn't put a lot of it's not that I don't care what students think about. Of course what students think. Of course I care what they think. But I would spend my energy, rather than trying to satisfy what students think and what they want, I would spend energy trying to broaden their horizons and making them understand how important what we are teaching is for them, well beyond the Bagrut exam. So, okay, that's pretty much what I wanted to say, and I'm happy for anyone to comment on that or ask a question.
I'd like to comment. I think that you're right, and of course Robin is right. That is why we teach them English. But the reality of what is going on in school and with our students, and it is not only in English, the Misrad HaChinuch places all emphasis on the Bagrut in English.
Wait, I'm stopping you because that I am Misrad HaChinuch. Look at the logo above my head, okay, or to my right, left, I don't know. I am Misrad HaChinuch. That's me. So, and I'm telling you what I put emphasis on. We are educators. This is our job, not to talk about what's going on in school, but to make change. So I'm sorry, I know I interrupted you in the middle.
It's very,
but
while that may be true, and that may be what you personally believe and what we as teachers personally believe, because I think that most good educators do believe that, it simply isn't the reality in the classroom today. The students have been trained by the school system and by their parents and by every message they receive that the Bagrut is the most important thing for them in school. And while we all can agree that it is inauthentic and that is not what unscenes and very form structured essays are not the reality of what will help them in their life. It's where the emphasis is. The Kobe is the closest thing that they have to real life application, and the least emphasis is placed on the Kobe. The message that is coming from Misrad HaChinuch, whether it is you personally or those above you or around you, is simply not aligned to what you are saying. Like, I agree with what you're saying. I agree that we should be lifelong learners and all those things, but we are mature adults who have that perspective, and high school students simply do not. And to try to convince them otherwise is quite a challenge. I'm not saying.
well, then I hope
Sorry,
that you are
I don't
up for
agree
the
with that at
challenge.
all. I'm sorry.
Joe has raised his
Everybody,
hand.
please note that the final attendance form is in the chat now.
Yeah. I'd like to, we've got just another very few minutes, and I want to finish on time. If we can talk about other topics besides Bagrut.
For sure,
like
yeah.
Joe, you raised your hand. You wanted to say something?
Sure. I wanted to strengthen my predecessor and say, at least at some of the schools that I've taught at the last few years, especially when she said that they've been taught by the realities of the classroom and their parents, that this is a generational form of disillusionment with education itself. And I think that needs to be addressed in Ishtalmuyot. At least I would like to see it be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. David?
Yes, well, I totally disagree with the two people who spoke before me. I agree that the Bagrut is the end game as far as the students are concerned, but at least in my classroom, I tried to tell them that they are studying English in order to know how to use the language in real life, and that the Bagrut is something that they have to beat, but it's not the essence of everything we do in class. And at least that's the way I've been going about it for years and years and years. And sometimes I even go to the extent of telling my students, listen, this specific exam might make you feel stupid because it's too easy, but that's what you're required to do. That doesn't mean that you know less English or more English because of it. So I don't agree with the two speakers who spoke before I did.
Okay, anyone else want to say anything? Last chance, guys, last chance. Unless you're coming to Eton, we can chat there.
When's your next course, Penny?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, we're waiting.
Okay, then we'll wind up the course. Thank you very much, everyone, for a wonderful experience for me, anyway, and for a lot of you, as I see from your feedback. And hope very much to see as many of you as possible at ETI and in the
And
future.
so do I.
And
So
good
do
luck.
I. Thank you, Penny.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thanks for all the hearts
Thank
and hearts
you
and,
so
and
much.
applauses.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. It was
Thank
you so
wonderful.
much, Penny.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good
Thank
evening.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you.